about to expand on this, by the way.
Oh, we'll get to the end, and then I'll say something.
Okay. So I should just read the rest of the aphorism?
Yeah, how much more do we have?
Like an entire page.
Oh, fine. Well, at least get a little further.
Okay. It is no different with Shakespeare, that amazing Spanish, Moorish, sorry, I have a speech impediment when I was younger, and I'm like, this isn't a joke, I'm being like actually serious right now. I had to be in speech therapy because my S's, my SH's, and my CH's all sounded the same. So if I went to church, which I did as a child, I grew up in a religious family. I grew up in Pentecostal Christian churches, despite my eventual turn to teapot agnosticism. But I would go to church. And if I wanted chocolate, I had chocolate. And if I wanted to watch the beloved Dick Van Dyke movie, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, I would watch Shitty Shitty Bang Bang. Actually, I don't think Dick Van Dyke is in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I don't know who the actors in that movie are. Is it Julie Andrews? Well, they're both in Mary Poppins, but I think just one of them is in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, unless I'm making all of this up. Huh?
She's actually my aunt.
What?
Did you not know that?
Julie Andrews?
Yeah.
Really?
Huh?
Is Leon the Globetrot making this up?
No. You got me. It's a joke.
Oh, that was a dumb joke. It was not funny. How did we get on that where did that begin?
You started talking about speech impediment. Because of Moorish, I think?
Oh, yeah, so I was explaining why I was having trouble saying Spanish.
And then you said shush.
Yeah, and then I said shush. But that's why I have trouble saying Spanish and Moorish. It's the SH at the end. It, like, fucks with my speech impediment.
Shush.
By the way, just quick, remember we said Nietzsche was a philologist, so when he talks about, like, Shakespeare or Homer, there's a good chance he, like, knows what the fuck he's talking about.
Oh, for sure. Like, this is his literal area of expertise.
Yeah.
It is no different with Shakespeare, that amazing Spanish, Moorish, Saxon synthesis of tastes that would have all but killed an ancient Athenian of Aeschylus's circle with laughter or irritation. But we accept precisely this wild abundance of colors, this medley of what is most delicate, coarsest, and most artificial, with a secret familiarity and cordiality. We enjoy him as a superb subtlety of art saved up especially for us, and the disgusting odors and the proximity of the English rabble in which Shakespeare's art and taste live we do not allow to disturb us any more than on the Chioggia of Naples, where we go our way with all our senses awake, enchanted and willing through the sewer smells of the plebeian quarters fill the air. Oh, though the sewer smells of the plebeian quarters fill the air. I mean, yeah, he's, like, literally saying we wouldn't have Shakespeare if we didn't have someone who, like, learned from, like, other groups.
Yeah, and moreover, why do people care so much about Shakespeare? Part of it is because, at some level, they realize the multicultural basis of what he's doing. What we would now call multicultural.
I know him.
Right. I guess we'll immediately continue to the next part. As men of the historical sense, we also have our virtues that cannot be denied. We are unpretentious, selfless, modest, courageous, full of self-overcoming, full of devotion, very grateful, very patient, very accommodating. But for all that, we are perhaps not paragons of good taste. Let us finally own it to ourselves. What we men of the historical sense find most difficult to grasp, to feel, to taste once more, to love once more, what at bottom finds us prejudiced and almost hostile, is precisely the perfection and ultimate maturity of every culture and art, that which is really noble in a work or human being, the moment when their sea is smooth, and they have found halcyon self-sufficiency, the golden and cold aspect of all things that have consummated themselves. Perhaps our great virtue of the historical sense is necessarily opposed to good taste, at least to the very best taste, and precisely the highest little strokes of luck and transfigurations of human life that briefly light up here, and there we can recapture only poorly, hesitantly, by forcing ourselves, those moments and marvels when great power voluntarily stopped to the side of the immeasurable and boundless, when an excess of subtle delight and sudden restraint and petrification, in standing firm and taking one's measure, was enjoyed on still trembling ground. Measure is alien to us. Let us own it. Our thrill is the thrill of the infinite, the unmeasured. Like a rider on a steed that flies forward, we drop the reins before the infinite, we modern men, like semi-barbarians, and reach our bliss only where we are most in danger.
All right. Oh, he can write, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, at the end, he's talking about how the historic sense, which is, I think, the idea that we can look at all these cultures, and like he was saying in the previous aphorism, try them on, right? Or use them to plan out how we want to live, and see them as ways of possible living, all that fun stuff. That's opposed to what he calls good taste. Right? Perhaps our great virtue of historical sense is necessarily opposed to good taste, at least the very best taste. It is only poorly and haltingly and only with effort that we are able to reproduce in ourselves the trivial as well as the greatest serendipities and transfigurations of human life, as they light up every now and then. And what I imagine because he mentions the maturity of a culture before, what I imagine he thinks that we lose in having this, mingling of different people and the ability to see cultures as, like, each viable in their own way as ways of living. Like what we would now call multiculturalism. But it's like a little more than multiculturalism, because the idea is that you learn from cultures and, like, you adjust your way of life by seeing what works and what doesn't in others. What he thinks that we miss out in that is, and I'd imagine he thinks about this, but something like the paragons of, like, Greek philosophy, right? Which were very noticeably Athenian. That, or at least, that's how I don't know the history super well. But the idea is that to have, like, really, developed good art, it needs to be part of a culture which is well established and isn't changing. That good art is situated within a culture. And he's probably here, he might be thinking of Wagner. And, like, Wagner is situated within, like, a capital German, because Germany always has a capital G. And that it's only when you get a fully developed culture do you get really great works of art in this way. And that in having this multiculturalism, Nietzsche thinks that you never get to the point where your culture is all the way developed in that sense. So in that way, we don't have this good taste. Now, just as I say that, he might also be playing on the word good, because the word good is in italics in this edition. It might be in yours too. And for Nietzsche, when he talks about good, it's going to be relative, right? Because good's a value term, right? Good taste is a judge of value, and good and values for him are going to be culture dependent. It's not like all the way culture dependent, where, like, you can't escape your culture's values, because he wants us to try and do so, to, like, choose our values, do a reevaluation of our values. But the idea might be that in order to have good taste, in order to judge something as a good work of art, say, the only methods you're going to have for doing so are within a particular culture. That because within the particular culture gives you the values by which we judge the piece of art. And so if you don't have a strongly, like, if you have a historic sense, the ability to view something not as part of a particular culture, but as part of history, this is good, non-stop. And to have discriminating taste.
Oh no!
The herd's coming!
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Get out the automatic one.
1886, secret societies and weird worship of ancient occult BS was a thing that every wealthy person was a part of, which might be a part of the historical sense thing. He also adds, this aphorism is also hurting my brain. It is hard to pinpoint its target.
Yes. No, I agree with that sentiment, absolutely.
What's 47's target right now? This is horrific. This is just... Oh, this is the worst thing I've ever watched someone do on the internet.
Value judgment only valid within the culture.
Well, in this culture, mowing people down like fleeing a concert hall with a machine gun is probably frowned upon.
I don't know why.
Okay, so I hate to do this,
What are you doing?
but I think Leon the Trot, Martin, and I are going to have to stop at this particular aphorism.
Yeah. Can I say a couple more words about it first?
Martin has a couple more words.
If I had to guess, I would say what Nietzsche is trying to critique. So as soon as he says historical, I mentioned Hegel in the first place. And Hegel has the idea that we can look at history. We can't look at our current history. We can look at past history in a more objective way, see what the forces were in the history, see how they contributed into what came next, and also see why that constituted progress.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And this sort of stepping back and viewing the good parts of history is, I think, what Nietzsche's talking about. And relating to how Europe is, he thinks currently, with a mixing of different peoples, and how looking at different cultures that currently exist is a similar act to looking at historical cultures. Because you're trying to step back and see what's good and bad outside of any particular culture. And how, at the end he says this also has a bad side, or at least it seems like he says it has a bad side. That's the inability to have good taste, which I was trying to imply at the end. Said something like, you only get a strong way to tell what's good and bad whenever you have one particular culture.
Uh-huh.
So if the idea is you look at a bunch of them,
Uh-huh.
then you're not going to have the criteria to say whether it's good or bad. And so I think that is.
Should we get past the word good and bad then?
Well, beyond good and evil.
Oh shit. Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that the point he's trying to make?
I think that's one of his big points. Yeah.
Interesting.
But it's like, it's not
That's really
just like-
interesting.
like he's not just a complete relativist.
Right.
Like, he thinks there's an element of human agency. In
Uh-huh.
that, like, at least for the higher types, there's an ability to choose what your values are.
Uh-huh.
And even if you can't choose what your values are, you can, like, choose how you think about them. And choose your thought process about them. And so it's not just, like, pure relativism where,
Mhm.
like, you're bound to your culture and you have to perceive things in this particular way. But he also attributes a degree of agency. But yeah, like, move beyond these judgments of good and evil. And he thinks that, like, choose between values.
That's
Do a revaluation of values.
that is fascinating. And such a great note to end on. I don't know how Leon and Martin feel, but I thought this was fucking fun as hell.
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, this was great. I really had a good time. I want to make this a regular thing. Not necessarily Nietzsche every time, it could be other philosophers, and not necessarily always Hitman, it could be a different game. We could be reading, like,
Should always be Hitman.
who could we do with No Man's Sky?
To No Man's Sky?
Camus, of course.
Oh yeah, Camus.
We need to read something in the public domain. And good night, Paul. Thank you for watching. You are, like, just the best viewer we could ask for.
Our one fan.
Yeah.
I bet you're pretty.
All right. And on that note, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Sleep tight, Paul.